Welcome to our first session of the first day, Leading with Authenticity. I'm Vannesa Ajavon, Hisar's Director of Administration and Human Resources, and I'm excited to be with you here today. Have you wanted to learn how to get comfortable embracing your true self in the workplace, particularly when your peers and higher-ups don't look like you? We have the honor to have the incredible Gisel Ruiz to open up the conference. Please join me in welcoming a board director of Univision Communications Company and the former executive vice president and chief operating officer of Sam's Club, Miss Gisel Ruiz.
Hello, and thank you so much, Vannesa, for that kind introduction. I couldn't be more delighted and honored to be part of the Latina Empower Her Summit. This is actually my second year here, and it's really a true honor.
Thank you so much, Gisel.
Well, I also, before I get started, I have to thank my good friend and colleague, Sid Wilson, for including me in this. I'm particularly proud of my Hispanic heritage, and the work that ACER does is incredibly important to help support corporate America on what they can do, their part in helping support the Hispanic community. So thank you, Sid, for your leadership. Thank you to the entire team. Adelante con tu trabajo. So today I thought I would just start with some context, because I think the context for this very important topic is very important. So I'm going to start this segment with just talking a little bit about myself and why I'm here today. If you looked at my all the different roles that I held at Walmart, I started out as an assistant manager trainee right after graduating from college. It was my first real job, and I was the first in my family to actually graduate from college. I graduated from Santa Clara University, and that's where a recruiter from Walmart came knocking on my door. And neither of my parents actually finished with a middle school education. In fact, my father never went to school a day in his life, but nonetheless, I had the great fortune of graduating from a wonderful institution, and that led me to the introduction of Walmart. So as an assistant manager, I worked my way up the ranks to eventually be promoted to store manager, where I was happily running my Walmart store out in Central California. And then right around 1999, early 2000 is when I took my first role at the corporate office in Bentonville, Arkansas. And I have an illustration, if you'd like to show that, of the different roles that I held at Walmart. I won't go through all of them, but just to give you a little bit of idea of the different roles that I had, both in operations and in Walmart. So basically, I grew in responsibility with my tenure at Walmart, from regional vice president to senior vice president of people. And then, as was mentioned, I completed my career after almost 27 years on May 31st of 2019. And what a stellar career it was. And so I was ready to start my next chapter, and I, quote, retired from Walmart on May 31st of 2019. But as you can see next, I had an absolutely wonderful career. You'll see photographs here of me attending the Hispanic Federation Gala, speaking for the Hispanic Association Latino Resource Group out in the Silicon Valley, presenting in a shareholder conference. There's a trip to Egypt, and then me shaking the hand of David Glass, former CEO of Walmart, during my retirement reception. So while I knew that I was ready to start my next chapter, I knew that full-time retirement was not for me. So today I serve on the board of 3 different wonderful companies. First, I serve on the board of Vital Farms, a certified B Corp, specializing in ethically produced food. I serve on the board of Cracker Barrel, which is a wonderful national restaurant chain, home-style, home-cooked meals. And then, as was mentioned, I serve on the board for Univision Communications, the leading Hispanic media company in the United States. So I'm incredibly proud to be part of those three organizations. And it's not really a retirement per se, but it definitely gives me the opportunity to continue to hopefully add value from my experience and my background towards companies that really mean a lot to the people in the United States. But at the same time, I get to focus on what's really most important. And for me, I want to show you what that is. So to understand authenticity, next I want to talk about what makes you you, okay? It's not a particularly complicated question, but remember, I said earlier that context is everything. And so in preparation for this presentation, I decided to ask the people that I love, the people around me, why they believe I am the way that I am. Or I even asked the question, who am I to you? Because I think it's important that you start with really understanding who you are and what makes you you. I have to tell you, in that exercise, asking my husband, my 22-year-old daughter, my 19-year-old daughter, what makes me me, was a very, very interesting exercise. And I want to encourage you to do the same thing, because often we don't give ourselves enough credit for the strengths that make us who we are. We often focus on the shortfalls, the weaknesses, the things that we could do better. So I would encourage you to do the same exercise. And just for the sake of context, I'll share with you what my family had to say about me. So I heard my parents were strict. Why I am the way that I am is because my parents were strict. My husband said, your parents hugged and kissed you. So he felt like that was a big reason on why I'm a nurturing person. You were taught to serve others, and he felt like there was a direct connection on that's why I continue to serve the Latino community today. My oldest daughter said I'm a natural leader, but I often took my skills at Walmart and brought them into the home. I thought, that's interesting. She also noted that my mother was a strong woman, opinionated even, and that she felt like that had a lot to do with who I was today, or who I am today. My oldest daughter said, I often assume that I'm right, but I'm humble enough to admit when I'm wrong. So there was a real background of being humble. And my other daughter also mentioned that I often reflect because I truly strive to be a better person. Again, I want you to do the same exercise with the people around you who know you the best. We often think about shortfalls. We don't give ourselves enough credit for the strengths that make you who you are, the special things that make you who you are. So I would encourage you, do the same thing. My whole point in sharing with you how people that I love viewed me is, whether it was positive or negative, these are the things that make me who I am. Mexicana. I'm a mother of 2 daughters. I'm married. I'm over 50 years old. I won't tell you exactly how old. I'm married. I'm a woman of faith. And yes, indeed, my nearly 27 years at Walmart had a big part in who I am today. So if this is what makes you you, then why are so many women afraid to be themselves at work? Are there unwritten rules? Are there kind of these behind the scenes expectations? Or does the sameness that we see around groups of people make us uncomfortable or comfortable? But I want you to think about authenticity in a different way. Authenticity is about being original. There's a certain credibility to being authentic because it is the truth about who you are. We often associate authenticity with being different, and different is negative. Or we associate authenticity with being unique, and unique is different, and different makes us uncomfortable. But I'm here to tell you that from a business perspective, from a talent perspective, there isn't anything further from the truth. It's originality and that credibility that gives quality to who you are. It brings value to an organization. So in business, it's a very common mistake that leaders, poor leaders, encourage you to kind of conform with your environment. And that is a mistake, and I underscore mistake. Those aren't true leaders. I want to talk to you about what authenticity means in a business environment, and what it means to strong leaders. And this is the way that business or a leader in business sees authenticity is really about you, all of you attending today, smart, ambitious, talented women coming together to invest in yourselves through this Empower Her Summit. They view you as an asset and should view you as the company's most important asset. So in business, what does it mean? Authenticity is about diversity of thought, about being honest, being real. When someone brings their authentic self to work, it's often refreshing because there is a lot of sameness around you. It is a true benefit, and a company doesn't really fulfill the entire benefit of having someone diverse on the team if you hold back, if you conform. So you have to think about what makes you you, the different, the unique, as an absolute value. Companies who really appreciate diversity and authenticity have a competitive advantage because they have a difference of perspectives around the room, which can generate even better ideas. You view the world differently because of who you are, because of your background, because of how you grew up or where you grew up, because of your culture. That is an absolute competitive advantage to any company who has a diverse workforce. There's a great deal of wisdom that comes from the experiences that are yours. And I want to make sure that you fully embrace that and that you fully see the value in that to any organization. And also, just, as a side note, it's so much harder to be an imposter. It's so much harder to try to be someone who you're not. So if I would leave you with this, it would be that I want you to exercise your authenticity with confidence. There is value in what makes you, you. For me, you saw the list. It was Mexicana, a wife, a woman of faith, over 50, whatever labels you want to put around me. And maybe it was partly because I was a bit naive, but I never viewed what made me me as some sort of disadvantage. I only viewed it as my unique advantage because I saw the world differently than my peers and colleagues. So walk away with confidence, understanding that there's a great deal of value in what makes you, you. The next thing I want to leave you with is, if you want a safe space, make a safe space. Often when I talk to groups of mentees about bringing your authentic self to work, they might ask a question about a level of tolerance, or they might signal something that makes me believe that there's a low level of tolerance for differences in a workplace. And I would say to you, to ensure that you have a safe place, lead by example and provide a safe place for people who are different than you, maybe have different views, to be able to express themselves in the way that they feel the best about themselves. Lead by example and show how to create that safe space. Now, I'm not talking about exceptions, all right, because there's no tolerance for bad behavior or mistreating people. But by leading by example, that can be very, very powerful in showing others that tolerance is a way for all of us to feel comfortable in bringing our authentic selves to work. And then finally, I think the most important thing about why it's important to be your authentic self to work is that it builds trust. I have to underscore this with a big highlighter. It is important to your team that they know and understand who you are. It builds trust in the relationships that you have with your coworkers or with your teammates or with your boss even. They can rely on you to always be who you are, not try to navigate and kind of go with the status quo or conform. That can be confusing. That can lead to mistrust. And teams that thrive have great trust relationships among themselves, among colleagues. So this is one of the most important reasons for you to always be authentic to yourself. So these are just a few of my thoughts around authenticity and why that is so important in the workplace. I would welcome you to send in some questions. I will keep my eye open in the chat, but I really want to make sure that you get what you need out of this particular topic, and with one caveat, and that is that you may not agree with what I have to say. However, you will have the opportunity to hear how I think about it and consider it for your own workplace and your own career journey. So I welcome those questions at any time. What would you advise a Latina to do if she finds herself in that situation? So a situation where you feel uncomfortable being who you are is the assumption that I'm going to make. And again, the best way to have a safe place is to create a safe place. So let's assume that you are indeed role modeling what you expect from others, and that still is not very comfortable for you. The environment's not very comfortable for you. I always start with giving people the benefit of the doubt, and I think it's okay to have a conversation about what makes you you. The one that I hear the most often, and it's an unfortunate stereotype, is that, Latinas are passionate, we're very direct, we're assertive, but at the same time humble. And so sometimes that can come across as threatening for people who are just not used to that directness, the style. I think it's okay to let people know who you are. And this is a part of who you are. And you have positive intent, and we're all part of a team. But this is my style. And that would be my suggestion to you. And another suggestion would just be to be open to listen, because there may be something about the style that maybe is too threatening. And so do open the dialogue, but also listen and have a self-awareness about what you hear. I have another one. Can you speak more about this and the tools and strategies to model tolerance in one's leadership actions? This is such a great question, and such a timely question, because so much of the outside world feels like it's promoting this divisiveness, right? You're on one side or the other side. And just in my view, if you are a true believer in inclusion, that means including everyone, being kind to everyone, regardless of whether you agree with their views. It doesn't mean you have to like them. It doesn't mean you have to be around them. In fact, you can choose not to be around them. But if we really want to embrace this idea of inclusion, then that means having a tolerance for people who have views that are different than yours, who have upbringings that are different than yours. And I just strongly, strongly believe that if we're ever going to get to a place where everyone is included, then we need to set aside our personal differences and ensure that we create equal space for everyone to thrive and succeed. Because in this nation, there's room for everyone, and I underscore everyone, to succeed. All right. Can you share how your authenticity evolved as you rose up the corporate ladder? Did you have to be more proactive in being authentic as you entered the C-suite? That is such a terrific question. And I've thought long and hard about this one, because I would like to say that I didn't change along the way, but I'm sure that I did. So I'll start with kind of my early career, starting out as an assistant manager, trainee, and then store manager. I think my biggest advantage there was that I was incredibly naive, and I honestly didn't know any better, that I needed to conform in any way. So that naivete was an advantage, and it actually allowed me to stand out in the crowd because I was different. And because there was something that my parents taught me all through my upbringing, and that was that I would never face any challenges other than the challenges that I put in front of myself, that I allowed to be in front of myself. So that there was some power in that, and power of being naive. Obviously, I grew to be more and more self-aware as I grew up the corporate ladder. I would like to think that I was authentic all the way through. But with experience comes wisdom, and I definitely learned how to be more of an observer and understand how people responded to me. For example, I heard once that I was intimidating, and I thought, oh my gosh, like I'm the most approachable person on the planet. But, you know, again, with experience comes wisdom. You have to have an open ear to really learn and understand how to make other people thrive. And if that was something that came across unintentionally, intentionally, whatever the case, it was something that I should work on, because I didn't want to be intimidating. I wanted all of my associates to know that I could listen to them and that they could talk with me. Can you speak on imposter syndrome? I feel confident in my value and worth, but still struggle with feelings like I don't belong at times since I'm so different from my peers. This is from Sarah Gulhagen. I'm so sorry if I mispronounced your name. That it is not uncommon and you are not alone, I promise you. Imposter syndrome is often when you feel like you don't belong where you are, you don't deserve the role that you're in, somehow you ended up there. It is something that's very difficult to overcome. There's always someone talking in your ear, a little perch here. And I have a friend named Celia Swanson, who is a great leader, former executive. In fact, she was the first executive vice president at Walmart, female executive vice president at Walmart, has written a book called Gracious and Strong. And she often talks about these voices. There's the one that talks with you about why you don't deserve to be here. And there's the one that talks to you that wants to lift you up. And very difficult to overcome. But the way that I would try to frame it in your thinking is give credit to the people who put you in the seat. Give credit to them. And if you didn't belong in the seat, you wouldn't be there. Now, easy for me to say, harder to do, but you really have to get rid of the voice that talks in your ear about why you should not be in the seat. Listen carefully to the voice that says, give credit to the people that put you in the seat. They're smart people. They recognize talent. You may not get everything perfectly right, but they'll be there to support you along the way when you make mistakes. What is your opinion on the need for mobility in the pursuit of career advancement? Often Latinos are limited in this space due to wanting to be near to family support systems that support their success. By Shirley Morejon. Great question. So I'll start with this story. When I started out, graduating from Santa Clara, going to the assistant manager training program, it was not a matter of if you were going to move, it was a matter of where you were going to move. And I made that, at that time, my fiance and then soon to be husband, talked very openly about what pursuing a career with Walmart meant in terms of mobility. I made the decision, or we made the decision together, that actually worked for our family. I'm very, very close to my mom, my dad, my sister, everyone, and I knew that there was a chance that I was going to be transferred away from them. It's such a personal decision. I really can't comment on whether you should or you shouldn't. I made the decision that it was something that we would take on together, and it worked. My first assignment was in Utah. So I graduated in June, started Walmart in June, got married in October. By November, we were moving to Utah. So talk about fast. Moved from Utah back to California, then to Arkansas, away from my family. It worked. It doesn't work for everyone, though. I think you have to really reflect on whether or not it's something that you want to take on. And I know that families are very, very close together. In my opinion, the geography didn't mean that we were less close to each other as a family. If anything, it made us appreciate our time together even more. But it's such a personal decision. I would just encourage you to have a conversation. If you have a partner, have that conversation with your partner. Weigh the pros and cons. Are there ways that you can stay connected and still be close with your family? The answer is absolutely yes. But if you can't bear to do it, don't do it, because you will be unhappy. And if you're unhappy at work, That doesn't work for anyone, including your family. Have you been in a situation where being authentic, being a Latina, sounding like one, even looking like one, already puts you at a disadvantage because of a predefined stereotype? How can we influence or change those views? By Emma Trejo Farhadi. I'm sorry, Emma, if I mispronounced your name. What a fantastic question. I have not been in a situation where I felt who I was, how I spoke, how I looked, the color of my skin was a disadvantage. On the contrary, I always saw that as an advantage. And I want you to really think about this. My thought process was, because there are so few of people that look like me, I stand out. I am unique, and unique is good. Unique is not bad. I always felt like I could provide a perspective that was going to be different than my peers. And I want to really encourage that, because it has to start with your own mindset. It really does. If you believe it is a disadvantage to be brown, or to be loud, to be proud, to be passionate, whatever it is that kind of drives you. If you believe it is a disadvantage, you are right. If you believe it is an advantage, which I believe it is, you are right. So it really has to start with a mindset shift. And if the people around you, your coworkers or your boss or the company, don't see it that way, then I would say to you, you belong in a different organization. Go to an organization that appreciates and values diversity and what it means to have a difference of perspectives around the table. In your experience as a Walmart executive or in Walmart executive leadership roles, what best practices did you see implemented to bring local leaders on board to believe in diversity programs efforts at stores which are in rural or mid-states America? By Cynthia Allen. Thank you for your question. Back in 1990, probably 4 or so, I moved to Utah, moved back to Utah. So even in the early 1990s when I started Walmart, I had just the great fortune of working for people who really wanted to make a difference in the space of diversity and inclusion. And I have to just be completely honest. It's never felt like a fight, or never felt like I was swimming upstream in any sort of way. And I do think that a big part of that was the culture at Walmart. I mentioned before I got on the call, I got to be one of the founding members and chairperson of the Hispanic Associate Latino Resource Group while I was holding, my full-time roles. As an executive, I got to be the founding chairperson of the Hispanic Officer Caucus. And it all starts with the culture of the company and how committed that company is to really moving forward. Will there ever be a day where we solve it 100%? I don't know. But be in a company where the culture is about moving forward each and every day. And I had the great fortune of working for a company that does exactly that. They are committed in resources. They are committed in, the tone from the top, starting from the board to our corporate CEO, our segment CEOs, our executives. They are committed to the accountability of making progress. So we measure the results we hold our officers accountable to their efforts towards diversity and inclusion. It really starts with that. Oh, I'm going to get a little bit behind. What was some of the biggest challenges you faced with starting a family and climbing the corporate ladder? How did you overcome these challenges? Roxanne Baragano. Oh, well, I could spend another half hour talking about this topic, and I'll start by saying I am not the role model by any means. It was a lot of trial by error. But I want to start with this, and this is a mindset change too. Forget about the notion of work-life balance. Balance insinuates 50-50, that it's fair and equal. I find it impossible to try to achieve that standard. What I tried to achieve for myself is, when I was at home, I was the best that I could be as a mother and a wife. And some days I did a great job, and some days I didn't do so great. When I was at work, I strove to be the best that I could be at work. And some days I did a great job, and some days I needed to do better. I think it's really important that you allow yourself the room to get it right and get it wrong and do okay and do great. You have to allow yourself the room. I often joke with my oldest daughter, Luciana, that she was my experiment child. You know, she was the firstborn. We didn't have our youngest daughter until 4 years later. So it was a true experiment. I had no idea how to raise a child and work and be a working mom. A few things went really right. First of all, she was resilient. And secondly, I had a partner in life, my husband, Mike, of almost 27 years now, who sacrificed a lot in order for me to be able to fulfill my career. And we just kind of yin and yanged it. I had to let go of things that I felt, you know, were the way they were supposed to be done. I had to let go of that because I wasn't there all the time. And then at the same time, when I was at home with my children and with my husband, I needed to be 100% present. I needed to give all of myself to them when I was with them. But give yourself room to be okay. Give yourself room to disappoint people. Give yourself room to be fantastic and, you know, have your family be in awe of you. Just be kind to yourself in that way. Can you speak to authenticity and how this impacted your decisions to join or not join boards that you were considering? I imagine we can translate this thinking to how we think about consideration of jobs and roles we are thinking about. Jackie Jameson, what a terrific question. And Jackie, you are right. Yes. I had great advice from colleagues who had followed a similar path and mentors who really advised me to sit down and do some homework before I even contemplated taking interviews about boards. And that was, I needed to get my idea of my criteria, because the interview was going to go both ways. They were going to interview me and my capacity, understand my capacity, my experience, how I could bring value to the company. But equally as important, I needed to interview the company to ensure that it was aligned with what I wanted to get out of the experience as well. And I did come up with a set of criteria. There are 3 very, very different companies, but there were a couple of threads that carried through that are true, that were part of my criteria. I didn't want to be the token woman or token person of color. It was important to me that the board and the company really embrace the power of diversity and having diverse perspectives around the boardroom. And I'm happy to report all 3 companies are very committed to ensuring that there is diversity of thought around the boardroom. Vital Farms has been very intentional about the diversity around the board table. Cracker Barrel, same thing, and they were going through some board transformation because they have their fair share of challenges from a reputation standpoint. But I saw that they were committed, absolutely committed to the effort, not only in the boardroom, but with the reputation. And Univision in particular, the CEO, Wade Davis, was intentional about putting together a group of formidable Latino business people around the table. And I'm just so honored that I got to be a part of that process. So let's see, we are out of time. I wish that we could be in person, and I hope that I will see you soon. Enjoy the rest of your conference. And above all, thank you for taking the time to invest in you, because we need you. The future is now, and you are ready.